Over the last few episodes, I've been really wishing I had a better lighting source in this room so I could get better footage for you. I have a softbox right there this whole time. Idiot. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to day 3 of Resurrection of the Overmind. I'm really hoping today that we can finish up this project, but that remains to be seen. It is almost 8 p.m. now, and I'm just now starting working on this thing, so I'm hoping we can get it done today. Third time's the charm, right? We'll see. So, if you haven't been following along, what are you doing here? Seriously, go back and check the first and second videos. But yesterday we got our first signs of life from the replacement motherboard that we ordered. Unfortunately, those signs of life were reporting a CPU error via BIOS beeps, which is still a good sign because before that we weren't getting anything. I accomplished that by reseating the CPU, so it's crossed my mind that perhaps I didn't seat the CPU correctly. Which is pretty unlikely in my mind because I have seated these CPUs before. You put it in the socket in the proper orientation, it sits down in there, you don't force it, and it doesn't wiggle or anything, and you're good to go. You lock it down, add the heatsink, and you're good to go. But reseating it did seem to help. So my first order of business is to pull the CPU out of the of my old motherboard that's still in the machine, inspect both the CPU and the socket for any debris or anything that would be causing it to not seat properly, reseat it, and see if we can get the machine to post just like I did with this new testing motherboard. If that is the case, that would be ideal because then I could send that motherboard back and we're all happy. Alright, so step 1 is to get this testing motherboard out of the way safely without knocking it into any of the other components. We'll see if I can actually do that. Alright, step 1 has been a success. So now let's go on to step 2, which is re-hook up the motherboard that is still in Overmind, the old Gigabyte motherboard that is, and we will reseat the CPU on it and see if we can get a post out of it. And if you remember correctly, the FX8350 is still in there. So if we can get this machine to post, we are all but done. We'll still need to do some additional hardware tests to make sure everything is running and nothing did get fried, but short of that, then short of anything going wrong at that phase, we are good to go. So now I'm going to pull off this CPU block and reseat the CPU. Alright, I've pulled off the block. I'm going to clean the CPU now, get the thermal paste off, because we won't be needing it at this moment. This is one area where if you were following along at home, somehow you have the identical computer and the identical scenario that I'm in, and it's playing out the exact same way. Man, wouldn't that be awesome? Well, no, because then you'd have a broken computer. But I do recommend that you do not follow my steps in this regard. I'm going to use a paper towel to clean the CPU and heatsink because I do not have isopropyl alcohol or a proper cleaning cloth available at this moment. You should not use paper towels because the fibrous material that it is made out of can easily come apart and you'll find fibers stuck in CPU sockets or on the block in places that they shouldn't be, and you will definitely, well, not definitely, but you run the risk of damaging something in that regard. I'm going to use this as a temporary fashion, and then once the testing is done, I will acquire some isopropyl alcohol and a proper cleaning pad and reapply the thermal paste at that time. All right, now I'm gonna pull the CPU out of the socket and reseat it. Okay, there are no signs of damage on the CPU or the socket. Everything looks nice and normal. Oh, I just found a bent pin in this CPU. Awesome. Boy, there is no way I'm going to be able to get a shot of this. But the bent pin, you can see it just barely, is right where my index finger is. You are just going to have to trust me. Yeah. Yeah, HD. Okay. So, now we are in CPU repair mode. That's a little bit different than what I was expecting. But all right, let me go find my mechanical pencil. Stop swaying, camera. Come on. Okay, so we have a bent pin on our FX8350, which I've got here. Fortunately, this CPU is new from Amazon, so I could probably return it. I'm not sure how happy they would be with it being a bent pin, but I believe I can return it, no questions asked. But first, before doing that, I don't like returning equipment that I've broken. It feels bad. So what I'm going to do is attempt to bend this pin back very gently using the mechanical pencil method. That is, empty the pencil of lead. Please tell me this does not have lead in it. Okay, I think we're good. And stick the pin up in there and just gently bend it back into position while trying not to snap it off at its base. It's very thin. If you can't see it because the focus of my iPhone is funny, the pin is right here at the tip of the mechanical pencil. There are two pins that have been bent. One of them is going sort of upwards and to the right here. That one will be an easy fix. Then the one right below it is going at about a 45-degree angle down and to the left. So I'm going to start with that one because go big or go home, but also because that one I'm much more concerned about, and if I would accidentally hit it further down, I'm afraid that we might be toast. Not the good kind of toast, the overly burnt kind with no butter or jam or whatever it is that you enjoy on your toast. All right. Man, I need a magnifying glass or eyes that are 50 years younger, and I'm only like 20 something, so what does that tell you? I'm amazed that I didn't notice this earlier. I should have been looking for it. I feel kind of stupid now, but at least we're making progress. Okay, that bent pin is too far bent for me to get the mechanical pencil on. I can probably get the one that is less bent. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm making you sway again. Okay, pin number one is a success. I have successfully bent it back straight, and it looks like it is pretty close to being okay. Unfortunately, I've just now noticed pin number 3 is bent out. It's the one right on the edge here next to the pins that we've been talking about. That's okay though. I'm gonna just slip this over it, bend it slightly back in. I believe it has been bent back. I'm still worried about this final pin here. Pin number 2, I think, is what we're calling it. It's too far down. At this point, it's recommended that you use a small tool. I'm going to try my pocket knife blade and see if I can actually fit that in between these rows of pins. If not, I will procure a utility knife of appropriate size and thickness to accomplish the job, because I definitely don't want to cause more damage. I do have my anti-static wrist strap on, in case you were wondering.
I don't think the anti-static wrist strap covers slicing the CPU in half with your pocket knife, though. Does it? I haven't read that in the manual anywhere. Okay, so let's relocate our bad pin. Boy, why am I having such a hard time seeing it with my little eyes? My eyes aren't that little, but why? Oh, here we go. It's over here. I was holding the CPU like this. Where's the pin? It's over here, bro. Thanks, dog. Talking with myself in my gangster voice. Okay. How does one bend this pin without bending any of the other pins? Oh, just like that. I believe I succeeded in at least getting it up. Boy, I would hate to be someone who troubleshoots these things. I would need so many microscopes. Like nested too, not just in different places, all pointing at each other. Okay, so now it's curved a little bit to this direction here. I can see it when I line it up that way. But this direction, it is pretty straight. There should be an asterisk there. CPU repair with Randy. Episode 1. How not to get into this situation. That would truly be the better method of CPU repair. I'm amazed at how easily these pins can be bent. I'm not just wasting time. I'm trying to figure out the best way to attack this and not slice my finger open. Because nobody wants their finger sliced open. Especially not Randy. Okay, I actually just performed the repair off camera because I could see it a lot more easily in the direct light. It looks like, let me set my blade down, even though it's not very sharp. It looks like all of the pins are in line now, within margin of error. As close as I can possibly get by just looking at it. So I'm going to set this guy back in the socket. Earlier, when I was sitting it in there, I noticed it was rocking a little bit, which I thought was normal before the retention arm is locked down, but it was rocking sort of off axis. So hopefully I'm going to set this guy down in there now, and nothing will be rocking around, and it'll be perfectly flat. That, I think, is the goal. It should be able to move horizontally in both directions, but it shouldn't be rocking. So let's see if we fixed it. All right, moment of truth number 1. Let's get our golden triangle here. That might already be a movie, actually. Copyright. And line it up with the triangle that is on the socket. I happen to know it is on the corner closest to the power supply. I'm going to set this guy down gently. I'm going to help it out, try to find its location. Oh, I'm sorry, you're swaying again. Why you be swaying, bro? Okay, so the CPU was rocking a little bit, but now it's sitting flat in there. So either the pin that was slightly bent has been completely crushed and is now shorting out all the other pins and plans to fry the CPU when I boot it up, or we are good to go. I'm going to lower the retention arm. It sounds like a part of a rocket ship launch. The retention arm. Bring it in, Scotty. I don't know why Scotty would be doing that, but that's okay. Alright, the CPU feels good. We're good. We are going to get our thermal paste that was hastily packed up because you won't need that again, dog. You're good to go. 18 episodes of this series later and I'm still repairing these things. My goodness. Sorry. Alright, let's apply the thermal paste. Small pea size in the middle should be sufficient. That might be a little bit too much. but I think it's probably alright. It's probably not a problem, all you Half-Life folks. Let's get the block in position, cable free, from underneath the block, that is. Alright, that side is on. Let's tighten it down just a little bit so it's not so loose and flaily. Let's get this other side down. Now, sorry, this is not a very good view for you. Apologies. Alright, so far so good. Let's get our pump header or our fan header plugged back in so the thing doesn't freak out believing that there isn't a CPU cooler installed or a fan connected to it. We've got power here, CPU, hopefully no more bent pins, single stick of RAM, no GPU. But if we get a post beep, I will definitely add the GPU. Post beep, that reminds me, I need our motherboard speaker from the other motherboard. This guy, I should just buy 100 of these things. Why do motherboards not come with these built-in on the chassis? Gosh. Maybe the newer ones do. Oops, sorry. Hit you with my face. Okay, that guy is installed. I'm not sure if the computer will actually post without a GPU attached, but that's okay. If we get beeps of any kind, I will shut it off, throw the GPU in, and see where we are at. Let me just double check. We've got power. We have power up here for this guy. This stuff is all just chilling like the villain that it is. The speakers plug in. Okay, I think we are ready. Fingers crossed. Let's apply power to the system and press the front button. Yes, the sound of victory. BIOS beeps. And the blinking LED of death. Yes. Alright, let's power down the system now. Fetch our GTX 980, which is an appropriate testing card if there ever was one. Don't you agree? Good golly, Miss Molly, this thing is heavy. And it has something rattling around inside it. Dang, Strix. Can't take you anywhere, Asus. Just kidding. I'm generally thrilled with Asus products. So, any chance to give them a hard time, and I would be wise to take it. Let's get this guy down in there. Stop crushing these cables. What are you doing, Strix? I should have pulled those out of here before I sat the card down. It's okay. Let's just push that guy in, lift the card back up, get this junk out of the way. Stinking fan cables. Who needs them? Not me. I'm water cooled, shush. Yeah, I'd rather not keep flowing water next to my expensive computer. Sorry. You're welcome to, but I won't. Let's get our power cables hooked up, back up to the 980. Okay. Oh, no, I'm not done yet. Let me get the monitor cable for the 980 also so we can actually see when the thing fires up. Okay, the system is a bit messy at the moment, but we've got the Strix 980 back in place, powered up. We've got the CPU and one stick of RAM. Currently my desk is covered, so I won't be able to get to the USB keyboard, but I will figure that out. Let's apply some power to the system and fire up. We should get some BIOS beeps just like last time. This is with the 8350. Single beat, good. Yes, the Gigabyte motherboard. That is what we were expecting. Post error. Profile, last known good. System will continue in 6 seconds. Cool. I don't have access to tell it anything else, so let's just watch what happens. Erasing all your files. It's okay, this system doesn't have anything I need on it. Oh, reboot. Cool. Cool. Cool, detecting the SSDs. Come on, Windows. Loading operating system. Yeah, Windows. Well, we should be moderately disappointed. It is Windows, but still, success so far. Come on, take us home. I was hoping you'd try to install updates. Okay.
All right, Overmind has booted with the new CPU and the old motherboard. We are not done yet, though. We still need to insert all of the original hardware back into the system, make sure we didn't fry any RAM or anything when we were working around. And then I have the joyous task of removing, where is it? There it is, the old CPU, the Phenom 2 X4, from the ASRock motherboard and determining whether or not I have bent pins in that as well. If I do, I get to fix those. Fortunately, I'll be sending the motherboard back. I don't actually need that. So, if the Phenom has bent pins, I'm not planning to use it again, but I would like to keep it as backup, because why throw away something that is working perfectly well?
All right, so the machine has been fully reassembled and is running happily. It's a little messy right now, but we're not going to worry about that. I am running HW monitor, or hardware monitor, to monitor the CPU temperature, and I'm running Prime 95 to stress the CPU, just to make sure that we're okay and no instability will be caused by the work that we've done on it. Man, the CPU temperature is showing up at only 40 degrees Celsius, and the socket temperature is, well, actually, I'm not sure which sensor that is. It's either 36 or 51 degrees. But our max for the CPU is about 61 Celsius, and the socket is, I think, 70 on most of these motherboards. And the H100i, even on low fan speed, is handling it like a champ with 220 millimeter fans. The ones that it comes with, actually, I'm sorry, I should look at the camera. It's maintaining 42 degrees. And we've only been stressing for 30, 45 seconds now. But that is outstanding. And the machine is very quiet the way I configured it for recording. You can see the Strix, well, you can't see because of poor lighting, but the Strix fans are actually off, not spinning. But that's a default behavior when it's not under load. That's one of the reasons I chose this, unless I configured that myself. It's been a while. I don't quite remember. But this guy is seeming to be working happily. I will let this guy cook for a little bit, hopefully only figuratively, while we work on the ASRock motherboard. Now, we don't need this system for production anymore, but what we do need to do is get this cooler off and get that CPU out of there and possibly repair it if I cause damage to it. So let's get started. Let's start a YouTube campaign to get Randy a better iPhone tripod adapter, yeah? Hashtag, no, I'm not going to try to come up with something for that. That'd be stupid. Okay, let's start with the motherboard. Let's remove the CPU cooler. Man, it goes off a lot easier than it gets put on. But wow, that was a horribly botched statement. Please edit that out, Randy. Let's get this guy off of here and use our same not recommended cleaning solution as we did before. Being sure to use a clean section of the paper towel. I got it in the fins. No. Man, that's never coming out. It's okay. Hopefully I won't ever need this CPU cooler again. Oh, goodness. This is the stock thermal compound that came on the CPU cooler, so it's all dried out. That's why it was flaking instead of rubbing off. That's an interesting thought. If you're going to put a stock cooler into storage, maybe you should wipe the thermal compound from it before you do, even if you've never used it and don't intend on using it. Because the one day that you use it for a test like this, you'll have some dried thermal compound stuck to it, and that is no fun for anyone. Hey, that rhymed. All right. Oh, the machine just rebooted. Uh-oh. Why did the machine reboot? Hold on. Let me get you a view of this. I got you guys. The machine is rebooting. Hopefully it will tell us why it did it. Star Wars. Okay, let me log in and see if it tells us any messages. I can't imagine that it would have just installed an update. Okay, so I have started the CPU stress test again to see if we can capture what is going to happen. Now I'm going to go look up some reasons why the machine would crash other than the standard it's unstable. Okay, so the machine just rebooted again. It's definitely happening under the load of the CPU. So that means there is a larger issue at play. Fantastic.
You thought this series was over, please. Okay, so it looks like the machine is rebooting under stress, which makes me think it's either the power supply being overloaded by the new CPU that's drawing a lot more power. The motherboard is causing instability rather than the CPU itself. Or maybe we have a bad stick of RAM because Prime 95 is testing RAM. And now we are in a different method of testing. I have still not worked on this CPU, which I'm going to do now, but the rest of the hardware testing for Overmind is going to have to come later. This episode is already way too long as is.
Alright, so we have our Phenom 2 chip here, nice and cleaned off. Let's flip it over and see if we've got any bent pins. Now, Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to test this chip, or at least I'm not planning to, because I don't really want to remove the 8350. Even though its pins have been realigned, I don't want to take a chance at reseating it if I don't have to. But depending on how the testing goes, I may have to. Alright, so I'm checking this guy out, and I don't see any bent pins. Last time they were pretty easy to spot. Well, that's not true. They weren't easy to spot. They're very difficult to spot, but I was still able to see them, obviously. I do not see any here. So that's good news and bad news. The good news is that there are no bent pins. The bad news is that does not explain why I was getting a CPU error on this guy. It's possible I just didn't have it seated properly. Still, even though when I reseated it, it did make a more solid connection, and it was not all the way in there. At this point, though, the world may never know what the outcome of this CPU is. Boy, cliffhanger. Not that big a deal. Oops, sorry. So let me stash this guy away safely in its protective case, and we will assume that it does not work until further testing.
All right, so we have completed the testing portion of day 3. I think I'm going to run through a series of tests on the computer. I can try running MinTest first, just to test the memory to see if that is the issue. Then I can move on to other methods of testing the CPU and power supply. Unfortunately, that is a 700 watt power supply, and I don't have any other additional ones or anything at all to test with. So I'm going to be looking up some power requirements and seeing if I need to procure another power supply or what. I'm going to be packing up this ASRock motherboard here to send back to Amazon, but I'm not going to send it back until I do further testing in day 4. Just in case we think the motherboard might be causing the instability, I want to have another one on hand just to pop the system components over into and perform my tests there. So I think that is just about it for day 3 of Resurrection of the Overmind. Hopefully in day 4 we will be able to solve the mystery of what is causing the system instability. Man, wouldn't that be great if it was the power supply the whole time and I never had to replace the processor? So, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Okay, full disclosure. I think this series is going to be 5 episodes. Hopefully in episode 4 we will be able to determine what the component is that is failing, and ideally get that component on order. Episode 5 we should be able to install that component, ensure everything is working, and then do the reinstall of Windows and everything and get the system back up to operational specs so that I can give you sort of a grand tour at the end of the system and how well it works and how I configure it. We will see. We will definitely see. This motherboard, I'm really tempted to just swap it out because it's newer. It doesn't have as many miles on it, or shouldn't have any miles on it. I'm kind of worried that I borked the socket though. I mean, it was reporting CPU error for a reason, and I think it's the Phenom 2 chip, but what if it's not? What if it was the motherboard? I would hate to hold on to it. I'm probably going to ditch it and send it back to Amazon. I didn't do anything that would void the warranty, and even if I did, I don't think it would affect my ability to return it. But like I said, I don't like sending back stuff that I've damaged or otherwise used so that they couldn't resell it. That's just not nice. Okay.